What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports here to give you the edge for this 12-18 two-game NFL slate on DraftKings. Cannot wait to break it down. We have ownership, we have projections, we have all that good stuff for you, and we have two very ugly games to watch. Now, I mean, they're supposed to be competitive for what it's worth, but New England and the Colts here, a 2-point spread, 45.5 over under. That should be the better of the two. But again, not too much offense I do predict in both of these games. We'll talk about that in a bit. But first, I want to go over my free cheat sheet that I post every single week to our dgfantasy.com website. If you guys haven't visited this, you don't have to pay for a membership. You can for $20 a month to get access to all of our ownerships, projections, and favorite GPP plays, cash plays, but we also post free articles every week. Here's pretty much a recap of what you'll see here for this video with player notes. You just scroll over them and it gives you a nice little player pool of who to select, my favorite plays overall here for this slate. And again, completely free. Just head over to dgfantasy.com. Also, the links are below directly to this cheat sheet, and all that will be posted again below. But let's go ahead and jump right into this two-game NFL slate. Very straightforward. Pricing is very soft on a lot of these players, so let's just go ahead and jump into it. We're going to be going position by position. I'll be giving you guys some of my favorite cash plays, GPP plays, my reasoning behind all the plays. We have a lot of value plays here too as well. So let's go ahead. Start at the quarterback position. In terms of ownership, Carson Wentz is showing the highest owned, and that does make sense because the Vegas total for the Colts the highest on the slate. I know it's not much, only 24 over under, but if you do the math here, the highest over under, he's also cheaper than Derek Carr. He's right in between Derek Carr and Mac Jones. It makes sense here, okay? So 6K, Carson Wentz, just from a value perspective, does make the most sense. Now, could I see him going out and getting shut down by the Patriots and scoring less than 10 points? Absolutely. And it could be tremendously, limited upside there. That being said, the next highest owned is going to be Derek Carr. Now, you can also argue that Derek Carr, in terms of a fantasy perspective, always has the most upside when comparing these four quarterbacks. Carson Wentz, Mac Jones, Nick Mullins. We know that Mac Jones just isn't a good fantasy quarterback. He's a great quarterback in general for that offense and for that system. But in terms of fantasy scoring, not the best. I'm probably going to full fade Mac Jones. I get it. A lot of you guys are going to hate me in the comment section because a lot of you guys are Patriots fans. But in terms of sheer upside, you have to predict Carson Wentz and Derek Carr, one of the highest scoring guys on the slate. But let me go ahead and throw Nick Mullins. Let me go ahead and give you a perspective here. At $4,000, he's $2,400 less than Derek Carr and Carson Wentz. If both of these games are lower scoring, Nick Mullins at a 4K price tag could easily cover that price point. Technically has the best matchup. So I actually don't hate Nick Mullins. I actually prefer him from a value perspective more so than Mac Jones. That being said, he's not safe whatsoever. He's only showing 12.8% ownership, and I think that's more of a GPP play. But Carson Wentz, Derek Carr, I think if you have to start your builds, one of those two guys. I do prefer Carson Wentz. I think he's a safer bet, but I don't hate Nick Mullins for GPPs. I could easily see him paying off his price tag there at a 4K price tag. So Carson Wentz my favorite, Nick Mullins my favorite for GPP. Switching over to the running back position, this is very straightforward. Let's go ahead and just exit out all these guys here who probably won't see the action for Saturday, and if they score a touchdown, I'm cool with it. They're showing less than 5% ownership anyway. Jonathan Taylor, $9,200, doesn't have the best matchup. We know that. The Patriots are a very good defensive team, but it's going to be either Jonathan Taylor or Carson Wentz scoring points for the Colts. And like I said, they are the highest over-under on the slate. So if you have Carson Wentz, you should probably cover yourself there with Jonathan Taylor. One of those two will be scoring points. And again, they are the highest scoring team on the slate. So I do think Jonathan Taylor, Carson Wentz presents the most upside in terms of sheer value. Now, switching down here to Nick Chubb. He's next on the list in terms of ownership, showing 55% ownership. By the way, Jonathan Taylor, 78.8. I think that's even low. I think everybody's going to have Jonathan Taylor. Nick Chubb, $7,800 is the workhorse back here for this game. And keep in mind, they're also relying on Nick Mullins. So that means Nick Chubb, both Nicks, he should get the bulk of the offense here in terms of receiving yards, rushing yards. They're going to need all the Nick Chubb here if they're going to want to compete here versus the Las Vegas Raiders. And keep in mind, Las Vegas Raiders dead center, 15th overall in terms of rushing defense. So, a mediocre matchup there for Nick Chubb. I do like him here at $7,800. That being said, I do like Josh Jacobs a little bit more in terms of volume. Keep in mind, they're also projected to win by 3 points there as the away team. Just in terms of volume, I think that Josh Jacobs is very underrated here. $6,600. He's been getting a ton of PPR upside. 6, 9, and 4 targets here without Kenyon Drake in the mix. So it's one thing you love to see. I get that the Cleveland defense is good, but like I said, both of these games are lower scoring, so you kind of have to take volume when comparing all of these running backs. Josh Jacobs, $6,600, and I'm honestly in love with all three of these running backs, so I wouldn't be surprised if they all three ended up in my lineup, at least for a smaller GPP. They are just very, very high owned, and they all make sense. That being said, the Patriots running backs, along with Mac Jones, like, you just don't know what's going to happen with this offense. They're so unpredictable, so why take a stab at these guys, at least in cash games, when you have no idea what's going on? Damian Harris is questionable as of right now. Obviously, if he's rolled out, then Ramondre Stevenson and a $4,900 price tag would bump up in terms of ownership. Dearness Johnson playing behind Josh Jacobs obviously could take a touchdown away from him, but none of these guys really make sense because the volume won't be there. But if you're looking at solid overall, give me plays. These are the plays to look at: Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, and Josh Jacobs. I do prefer Jonathan Taylor as my favorite option, then Josh Jacobs, and then Nick Chubb. And again, just because of the volume there with Josh Jacobs is the reason I like him over Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb should also get a heavy dose of offense. But again, Nick Mullins is the quarterback there for the Cleveland Browns. And before we move on to the wide receiver picture here, I want to talk about Prize Picks, and one of my favorite props here, Josh Jacobs. Based on how much I've loved him so far, you guys can kind of get a sense of that. 47.5 is very, very low as a rush yard prop for him. So right now I'm hitting the over. If you guys want to sign up for Prize Picks, go ahead and enter code using DGF. For 100% matchup to $100 just for watching this video, you get $100 deposited into your account as long as you deposit $100. So that's my favorite prop here for Prize Picks. Switching over to the wide receivers, more volume. A lot of volume here for the first two wide receivers here with Michael Pittman. Hasn't really taken the backseat to these other wide receivers since being inserted into the starting lineup, talking about T.Y. Hilton. So as you can see here, consistent target share really makes sense at a $5,900 price tag. Is probably my favorite overall wide receiver in terms of value. I do prefer him and Hunter Renfrow. Those two are going to be automatic locks for me in cash. Really no need to get different there. Hunter Renfrow is looking like a wide receiver one. Like, he's looking like a Cooper Kupp type wide receiver one. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but in terms of volume, 14, 10, 9 the past 3 games. No reason to fade Hunter Renfrow there in cash games. I'm going to go ahead and lock him in. I'm going to build a lineup here at the very end of the video and see if I can even get away with some of my favorite plays. Jacoby Myers, next on the list in terms of ownership, $5,100. I'm not a fan of it just because he's so volatile. Again, never know what to expect there with the Patriots offense. I'm going to probably avoid them altogether. He has been on a little bit of a good run here the past 3 games, but they've also scored an extreme amount of points, 45, 25, and 36 points the past 3 games. At least when he's played. But one thing we have to note here is Jarvis Landry has been ruled out due to COVID-19 protocols, which means that Donovan Peoples-Jones and Rashard Higgins do get a bump in terms of snap count percentage. So let's actually take a look here. Donovan Peoples-Jones here played 92% of snaps with Jarvis Landry last game. So expect to see him 90+% of the snaps again in this game. Rashard Higgins saw 37, so he's going to be the one who's going to benefit the most there from Jarvis Landry being out. Expect about 60+% there from Rashard Higgins. So I do like both of those wide receivers. I think that they are fantastic value plays because of the amount of volume that they should see. Peoples-Jones at $4,500 could be a nice little filler there, but I do expect a lot of builds to be landing on Rashard Higgins because of that extreme value. I get it. He's not a sexy pick, but if you're looking for a last spot, if you're looking for a salary saver because you are paying up for all these other stud plays on the slate, Rashard Higgins makes the most sense to me in terms of value. The rest of these guys are just kind of GPP options. I'm really not that confident in any one of these plays because of their volume, because they are second options there and their offenses. Switching over to the tight end position here, Foster is going to be the highest owned here at $3,700. He hasn't been doing that great as of late, but the targets have still been there. He's out on the field a tremendous amount of time. $3,700. He has to be one of the more obvious plays here at the tight end position on the slate. Hunter Henry is technically showing the second highest owned, but I'm not buying it. $4,200 is a bit pricey for a tight end spot, and I'm looking to pay down at this position. If I'm actually paying for another player in terms of a value perspective, I'm looking at Njoku because it looks like Harrison Bryant is questionable as of right now. If he is ruled out, then a lot more interest here in Njoku because Austin Hooper has already been ruled out due to COVID-19. So if Harrison Bryant and both Njoku play, I actually have interest in both of them. Again, they're usually on the field the exact same amount of time, but Njoku at $2,800 is actually catching my eye in terms of a fantasy play. So really do like him. And then last but not least, we do have to cover the defenses, and this is very straightforward, but I was actually kind of surprised to see the Colts showing the highest owned here on the slate at $3,200. The reason is because you can grab a cheaper Raiders team who's projected to, the Cleveland Browns are only projected to score 17.5 points against them, which is actually lower than the Colts. So I think this ownership is going to completely switch up. The Raiders seem like the most obvious choice here in cash. Colts, Browns, Patriots, definitely more GPP options in my opinion. And that will wrap up my breakdown, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this breakdown. If you did, please do it with that subscription button, notification bell, and of course, smash that like button for all of our future NFL content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day, and let's cash.